Imagine discovering a fortune left unguarded. Gold, jewels, priceless treasures, while standing completely alone. What you choose in that moment can define your entire life. Today's story shows how a single decision changed everything for one young woman and left a millionaire silent with awe. Welcome to Black Inside USA, where real character shines brighter than gold. If you enjoy meaningful human stories that uplift the heart, feel free to join our community by subscribing and staying with us for more powerful life lessons. The grand estate of the Ashford family sat like a jewel on the edge of a quiet Virginia town, surrounded by a lawn so perfectly trimmed it looked hand-painted. Inside, the walls stretched upward into archways decorated with delicate gold trims, crystal chandeliers, velvet drapes, and polished floors that whispered softly under the feet of anyone who walked there. To most people, the mansion felt like a museum, silent, intimidating, almost frozen in time. But to Amara Johnson, a 27-year-old maid whose green uniform fit neatly against her slender frame, this place was simply her workplace. She'd been here nearly 9 months. 9 months of early mornings, steaming kettles of tea, perfectly folded linens, and keeping her head down even when curiosity tugged at her. The estate demanded attention to detail, and Amara was good, very good, at giving it. Her co-workers admired her calm nature. Some wondered why a woman with such kindness in her eyes and intelligence in her voice worked in housekeeping, but Amara never explained. Her life, shaped by challenges few knew, had carved her into someone who valued humility more than appearances. Every weekday morning, she took 2 buses, then walked the last half-mile to the Ashford property. Rain, shine, or winter frost, she showed up smiling, ready to work. But today life had something unexpected waiting for her. The man behind the mansion, Mr. Nathaniel Ashford, the owner, was one of those men who carried quiet power. He appeared reserved, always calm, always impeccably dressed. His wealth didn't scream for attention, it sat behind him like a silent companion. He'd inherited the estate, but he wasn't the kind of rich man portrayed in gossip magazines. He didn't throw lavish parties or surround himself with crowds. Instead, he worked long hours managing investments and handling the estate's philanthropic foundation. Some rumored that he was cold, others said life had taught him caution. Only a few staff members had been around long enough to know he was simply observant. He watched people more than he spoke to them. And recently, one person had caught his attention more than any other. Amara. She had no idea. From afar, he'd noticed her integrity, how she quietly returned misplaced earrings to guests, how she stayed late to help others without expecting praise, how she moved through the estate with the respect of someone who understood the value of trust. But there was another reason Nathaniel paid attention. A few months earlier, a family heirloom necklace had briefly gone missing, not stolen, just misplaced. The incident left him uneasy. He trusted his staff, but trust, he believed, should be confirmed, not assumed. And so, unbeknownst to the workers, he had been quietly observing, watching, learning, and on this particular morning, he created a situation, not to trick, not to belittle, but to understand the true character of the woman he'd instinctively believed in. The morning that felt different. Amara arrived early, as she always did. The sun had just risen, laying warm gold over the estate's tall windows. Her curls were neatly pinned beneath her maid's cap, and she carried herself with her usual gentle energy. Her assignment today was the grand study, Nathaniel's favorite room. She'd cleaned it many times. A mahogany desk, leather chairs, heavy velvet curtains, oil paintings older than the nation itself, and, built into one of the walls, concealed behind a panel, a safe, a huge one, the kind that held the stories of entire family generations. Amara rarely went near it. She dusted the exterior panel and moved along, never asking or imagining what was inside. But today, when she entered the study, she froze. The panel was open, and the safe door, thick, steel, and intimidating, hung ajar. A warm golden glow spilled from inside like sunlight. At first, Amara thought someone else must be nearby. She stepped forward hesitantly, her heart thudding. And no one would just leave this open, she whispered to herself. But they had, and what lay inside made her breath vanish. A treasure more dazzling than imagination. Bars of gold, stacked in rows like gleaming bricks. Pearl necklaces draped gracefully across velvet stands. Jewelry boxes, ornate and handcrafted. Family heirlooms. Antique bracelets, earrings sparkling with stones she couldn't name but admired instantly. Amara stood still, unsure of what to do. Her hands tightened around the cleaning rag she held. Part of her wanted to call out, Another part feared that if she moved, alarms might trigger or someone would think she had touched something. She stepped closer, not to take anything, but to understand if this was real. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the gold. She looked small beside the wealth inside. Small, and out of place, and yet deeply aware of how a single wrong assumption could destroy the life she'd worked so hard to build. The moment he walked in, as she stood there, wrestling with what to do, she felt a shift behind her, one quiet enough to miss, yet deep enough to sense. She turned. Nathaniel Ashford stood just inside the doorway, dressed in an elegant white suit, watching her. She inhaled sharply. "Mr. Ashford, I didn't touch anything," she said instantly, hands trembling slightly. The door was already open. "I was just trying to figure out." He lifted a hand gently. "No need to explain yet." His voice was calm, kind, even, but her stomach twisted. She imagined every worst-case scenario, a misunderstanding, a ruined reputation, a lost job. The safe glowed behind her like a spotlight, painting her as someone she was not. "I promise I didn't." He approached a few steps, his expression unreadable. "Amara," he said softly, "I know." She blinked, confused. "You know?" His gaze rested on her with an honesty that made her chest tighten. "Yes, I do." A test of character. Nathaniel paused, choosing his words with care. "I left it open," he admitted quietly. Intentionally. The room seemed to still around them, even the air pausing to listen. Amara's eyes widened. "You left it open? But why?" "To understand something," he said. "Not about the safe, about people." Her eyebrows knit together with worry and surprise. He continued, "This house has seen many people come and go over the years. I've learned that true character is revealed not in grand moments, but in unexpected ones. In temptations, in silence, in the moments where choices are made for no audience at all." She swallowed slowly, processing. "So, you were testing me?" His expression softened, not patronizing, not superior. Remorseful, even, in a way, yes. "And maybe that wasn't fair. But I wanted to know if the person I believed you to be was truly who you are." Amara looked down at her hands, unsure what to feel. She felt exposed, uncomfortable, yet a part of her understood the weight of family legacy and the fear of misplacing trust. "Amara," he added gently, "you didn't take a step inside that safe. Your first instinct was concern, not desire. That says more about your integrity than anything I could have asked you." His voice held sincerity that eased the tension around her chest, but she still felt the question lingering. "So, what happens now?" She whispered, the truth about her character. Nathaniel stepped beside the safe, not to accuse but to close the door. The soft metallic thud echoed through the room as the lock clicked back into place. He turned to her again. "What happens now?" he said calmly, "is that I acknowledge what I've already known." A warm breeze drifted in from the tall windows, stirring the curtains. "You are a woman of remarkable honesty. You've shown it quietly, consistently, without ever seeking recognition. Your integrity is worth far more than anything that safe holds." Amara blinked rapidly, emotion rising unexpectedly. "Nobody's ever said that to me," she whispered. Nathaniel's expression softened. "Then far too many people have failed to see your worth." She looked away, tears threatening. "When you grow up the way I did," she said softly, "people tend to assume things. I learned young that sometimes the world is watching, even when you don't know it. So I try to be the kind of person my grandmother taught me to be, honest, even when nobody's looking." Nathaniel nodded slowly, as if the wisdom of her words stirred something old inside him. "Your grandmother taught you well," he said. His speechless moment, silence fell, a silence so full it felt like a moment preserved in glass. Nathaniel looked at her, not as an employer looking at an employee, but as a person seeing another person in a new, deeper light. "Amara," he began, then stopped. He tried again, soft, sincere. "I left the door open expecting confirmation, but what I didn't expect was to be moved." She blinked. "Moved? You didn't simply resist temptation," he said. "You reacted with concern. Your first instinct was integrity. And that," his voice trailed off, as though the words he needed hadn't been invented yet. "It left me speechless." Her breath caught. Speechless. No one had ever used that word about her before. "I'm not extraordinary," she said quietly. "Yes, you are," Nathaniel replied without hesitation. "Not because of what you do, but because of who you choose to be." She inhaled slowly, letting the words warm her. The conversation that changed everything. Nathaniel took a breath, almost hesitant. "May I ask you something?" he said, Of course, you're intelligent, articulate, clearly capable of things beyond housekeeping. Why this job? Why here? She paused. She'd always kept her reasons private, but something in the sincerity of his question invited honesty. I'm saving, she said. For school. His eyebrows lifted. School, she nodded. I want to study interior design. Architecture, maybe. I've always loved beautiful spaces. Even as a kid, I used to sketch houses, rearrange furniture in my imagination. My grandmother used to say I was born with a blueprint in my heart. He smiled gently. I can see that, but school isn't cheap, she added. So I work, and I save, and I hope. Nathaniel looked around the study, the polished wood, the old paintings, the crystal chandelier overhead. You've been helping maintain the beauty of this place, he said. Yet all along you've had beauty of your own waiting to be built. Amara's eyes watered again. That's kind of you to say. It's simply true, he replied, an offer she never expected. Nathaniel returned to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a crisp envelope. He walked back and held it toward her. Amara hesitated. What is this? Your future, he said simply. She blinked, startled. Mr. Ashford, I can't accept something like. Open it. With trembling hands, she slid the envelope open. Inside were documents, official forms, approvals, confirmations. Her heart raced as she read. A scholarship, a full scholarship, her name printed clearly at the top. Her breath broke. How did you? I've noticed your dedication since the day you arrived, Nathaniel said. Notice the pride you take in your work, the way you study the details of every room, the way your eyes light up around design. He paused, and today confirmed what I needed to know most, that your character is as strong as your potential. Tears slipped down her cheeks before she could stop them. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You don't need to say anything, he replied gently. You've already said everything through your actions. She pressed the envelope to her chest. Thank you, she breathed. He shook his head softly. No, Amara, thank you. A new path begins. The next weeks were a blur of emotion, planning, preparation, and endless gratitude. The staff celebrated her, each of them knowing she deserved every opportunity coming her way. Nathaniel remained respectful, giving her space but offering support whenever she needed guidance through the transition. On her last day as a maid at the Ashford estate, she walked through the halls one more time, not with sadness but with a sense of quiet triumph. She paused inside the grand study, letting her hand rest gently on the now closed safe. It symbolized something completely different now. Not temptation, not fear, but truth, the truth of who she was, and who she was becoming. Nathaniel entered the study quietly behind her, just as he had the day everything changed. Ready? He asked. She smiled warmly. Ready. Epilogue. The heart of a home. Years later, Amara would become an acclaimed interior designer, known not just for her brilliant spaces but for her humility, kindness, and deep sense of integrity. She designed homes that felt alive, rooms that breathed warmth, estates that whispered stories. And one of her most cherished projects, the renovation of the Ashford Mansion's grand study, the room where everything began, where her future opened like a safe door left ajar, glowing with golden possibilities. And where a millionaire once tested her, only to discover the most priceless treasure in the room was not behind the steel door. It was standing right in front of it.